In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's 4 greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Their mission, to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to serve all mankind.
That's right. We are here to fight injustice and to serve all mankind.
Yup.
And we've got Joe D. McPhee saying, what's up, everyone? How's it going,
What
Joe?
up,
We're here to
Jody?
have a good time tonight and have a lot of fun. Actually, Dutton, I think, can you be in charge of the comments? Make sure those comments get up there tonight.
Yeah.
Sweet. So
So,
yeah, we just want to thank
I am
everybody for
first
tuning
mate
in.
again.
First mate. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube right now, or if you're finding this later, we do ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe and hit that bell so that you can get notified, and maybe even hit that like button. Hopefully you like what you see tonight and what you experience. We are just here to take a break and have a good time. And as always, it's Luke and Dutton, but we're a foursome now. We've got Todd and Sam, who are regulars here. I don't think we really have a guest tonight, so tonight is just going to be a bit of tomfoolery and having a good time, talking about some comic books and talking about who's getting canceled this week.
Or, last week, but, talk
Or
about
last
this
week. Well, somebody's probably getting canceled again this week, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, someone is.
Someone
definitely
is.
Someone is
Someone's-
currently.
Someone's
Yeah.
definitely getting canceled. I always think it's funny to talk about who's getting canceled, so I think that's funny. So I mean, I'm just waiting for the week that it's me. When everyone's like, "Hey guys, so who's getting canceled?" Be like, "Well, Luke, I think it's you. I think you got canceled this week."
Well, I mean, we
So-
canceled you
I
last
keep
week.
trying, but nobody will cancel me.
Yeah, I keep
right.
trying, and they keep canceling me. So I got this big cup of coffee, and pretty much we're gonna go until this coffee is gone. So, and I'm just sipping it tonight. So
That's the
Yeah,
meter.
to be fancy.
that is the meter by which we shall run the show tonight. All right. So, how was your guys' week? I know I wasn't here last week, but I'm back this week. I'm back.
Yeah, last show, best show we ever had.
Oh.
Super good week.
Record numbers.
Right?
Everyone loved it.
I saw there was
right.
quite a few views on that episode. I was like, I'm like, dang it, maybe I should just like hand this thing over and let it,
No,
President,
that's not the
uh,
shit,
like former President Trump stopped by. I was like, "You're doing great."
though.
Trump.
Biden
We
stopped
got
by. I was
Trump
like,
in the house last week. That was awesome.
like Biden even stopped by, and I was like, "Yo, this is a
He's like,
bipartisan channel."
we're gonna build a wall and it's gonna be great. And he's like, shut up, dude.
Biden even showed up, and he was like, "Hey guys, you want some ice cream?" And I was like, "We are a bipartisan channel. Look at this. Everyone's coming here watching. Luke ain't here."
Nice.
Rich
Fantastic.
came over
man.
from over the pond. It was a real international affair.
Really? Oh my gosh.
What a story, Mark.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So now I'm having a good week. Doing just doing more art. Got the sign up for the Killing Field Part 3. Doing that. Oh yeah, and I got this. So this we've been we're finally able to debut this last week. This the role playing game that we did. So
Nice.
Nick Tockard, who put that together, built that game based off of the Hybrids universe that it's floating around in my melon. That guy, man, he did a fantastic job on that. And so last Wednesday, I went to the Collective. So I shall summon Danny Morales, who was over there. So Danny Morales over there. I was there with Travis Gibb, and we had a good time. But they have, on Wednesday night, they have their, it's kind of this big role-playing game night. They have tables and all kinds of groups are in there role-playing. And man, we had so much fun. But there were people that Danny was like, "Hey, there's this role playing game," and they just bought it almost sight unseen. They just grabbed it. It was
Really?
awesome. So
That's
yeah, so
dope.
we're really excited about how that might turn out. Yep. Todd, how are you doing, man?
Not great, but working on it.
Yeah, no, we've got some family health issues and stuff like that with family.
Oh yeah,
We've
yeah.
been praying
well,
for him.
no- yeah.
Yeah.
But then I just got bad news on, like, the reason I wasn't here on last Tuesday was Tuesday. I took my my cat in, my 18-year-old cat, and she's got kidney failure.
Man, I hate to hear that.
So they're
Sorry,
like,
man.
we'll give maybe a month at the most.
I will say this. When you said your 18-year-old little girl,
Yeah.
I thought it was like your daughter.
Yeah. Several
And
people
I
did.
freaked out until I saw the cat in the text. And I was like, oh, it's his cat, which is still bad, right? It's
Yeah.
still bad.
Yeah.
But like an 18-year-old, like, I don't know, like what's old for a cat? Is 18 old for
15?
a cat? 15?
Yeah.
Oh, so
All
this
right.
is an elderly cat.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
it's weird. She just had her checkup in April, and everything was perfect on her tests. And then 4 months later, now she's in stage 4 kidney failure.
Man, that sucks.
And yeah, there's basically nothing we can do except, make her comfortable.
Sam,
And this
how was your
sucks
week,
'cause
man?
My brother-in-law just
Oh.
died just a few weeks ago too. So I'm like,
Man,
oh my god.
yeah, that I remember that, man. That sucks. So we were definitely keeping you in our prayers for that one.
For sure.
Sam,
So
how about
July
you?
has sucked. Sorry.
Yeah, July has. I think I posted last night on Twitter. I said, it was like sometimes every inch you gain is hard fought, and I kind of felt like that's what July has been so far. Just hard fought.
Oh, okay. My week has been pretty cool. I've been saying for a few weeks now that I'm revving up to do my own YouTube thing, although I'll still be here. I have a YouTube channel. If you want to look up Mighty Jump Comics on YouTube, it exists. But I haven't posted any new videos in months and months and months. But I want to go back and hit that strong. And so I actually, after today's stream, I'll be meeting up with my buddy Jason from Capsule Games. He'll be designing me a new set of logos for Mighty Jump Comics for the rebrand, the relaunch of Mighty Jump Comics YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. And so, yeah, just been looking forward to that. Been coming up with a bunch of ideas for my first video back. And now because of the past week, I'm thinking, if not the first or second video, maybe because I had this idea to every now and again do an artist spotlight where I just like gush about like an artist I think is great, like a writer or an art or like a cartoonist that I think is just super dope. And now I feel compelled to make my first one about oh my gosh, I'm having a mind fart. The man being attacked. The person that we all love who's being attacked.
Frank Miller.
me.
Frank Miller, there we go.
Frank Miller.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is any type of
Oh, we're
early
definitely
onset.
talking about that tonight. So if you got strong
yeah.
feelings about that situation,
I
make
do.
sure to let us know. I see we got quite a few people in the watching tonight, and a few people in the chats.
We
Just,
said what's
thank
up
you
to
guys.
Joe D. But thanks, what's up, Dory?
Yeah,
Dory Jones.
yeah,
Labors of Love. What's up?
yeah.
Appreciate you.
definitely. Yeah, thank you so much. I was gonna ask Dutton how his week was, but does anybody really
Who
care?
cares? I'm like a middle child. Who cares?
Yeah, it's like the middle. Yeah, and not only that, he's like redheaded and step. So it's like,
Right.
Wow.
Redheaded, stepped, and adopted. What? The
yeah,
trifecta.
it was funny. I was we had I shared something about the Olympics and how the Norwegians they're getting fined, the ladies, because they want to wear more modest shorts, and as a pastor with an 18-year-old daughter, I'm all for girls wearing more modest things. I'm like,
Right,
that's all, but they're getting fined for it, right? So I shared something about that, and then Dutton made the comment, it's like, well, we could go back to the beginning where they were all naked, and I'm like, yeah, but here's
I
something a lot of
support
people
that.
don't know about that. Okay, you support that. Here's how that is weird for you. Okay, listen here. When they were naked, it was only men.
It's only dudes.
Women had their own games where they were fully clothed. So you want to go back to seeing a bunch of dudes naked?
Is that
Well,
how you
I
feel then? Is that
mean-
really how you feel?
I mean,
They're
I'm not
athletic,
judging.
so it's okay. I mean,
I'm not judging.
I think the basketball one would be like hilarious seeing someone
That
get
would be
dunked on.
hilarious. Oh, gosh.
Nobody's
Balls flying at my face.
nobody's like like
so gross.
Double
no one's
dribble.
standing
No,
there
this
in
is
the
my balls
post
bouncing.
anymore.
Do not post
You see
up on
guys
me. I
even
swear to
start
God,
them?
do not
He's
post
like,
up on
"No,
me.
Go ahead. That's all you, buddy. I'm not gonna be that like highlight reel on ESPN. That's all you guys.
All right.
Mhm.
So yeah, well, we're not here to talk about the Olympics, but we are here to talk about comics. And before we get into this whole Frank Miller thing and who all is getting canceled, I gotta bring a couple of things up, okay?
Okay.
So I got this flip book. It's been a minute. Andy Smith. I don't know Andy, but story is by Andy Smith and Royce Thrower, and art by Andy Smith, colors by some other people, editor Keith Champagne. So that's one side. I'm gonna make my screen big here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So, that's this book right here, Jungle Lords.
Oh,
I thought the art looked kind of cool, right? But it's a flip book, so you flip it over and then you go halfway in, and it's another one, and it's Marvelous Comics groups, and I kind of see where that's coming from, but but it's the same group here, Andy Smith, the same group, and I got to tell you, the art's pretty good. The story, no, it's not on both of them, not so much, and these people made it like. It's really all about the AAT, I think, with this book.
Right.
I really do. I think that's really what it is. But so like I'm normally like loving it, but I'm trying to be honest. Every time I grab an indie book, I'll try to be honest whether it's good or whether it's not. This one wasn't good. I'd been sitting in my stack for I don't know almost a year. Hadn't read it. Don't. Well, unless you just want to see pretty pictures, because the pictures are great.
Yeah,
but the writing.
Andy Smith's awesome. He's the one doing First Man.
Is he?
Yeah, that's Andy Smith. He's doing First Man.
This is the same guy.
Yeah, that's him.
This is not good.
Well, he's the artist, not the writer.
Oh, okay. The art's fantastic in this book. I love the art in the book. The art is amazing. Writing has a lot of work to be done. I was not impressed. It was a rough read. It was rough to get through. But I'll tell you what wasn't rough to get through. And I am not a fanboy of the big two at all. Not at all. Like, not even a little bit. But I got this book on recommendation. Superman Red and Blue number 5. Mm-hmm. Number 5. Issue 5. Michael Oden gets a hold of me and he says, "Dude, have you read this book?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I don't really buy those books anymore. It's mostly indie and short run stuff." And he's like, "Dude, you got to read the last story in it." And so I did. And there's this story by Daniel Warren Johnson. He's the writer, the artist, and the letterer. And he worked with a guy named Diego Lopez who was the editor. So basically this guy did everything. This is 5 pages. And this might be the most moving 5 pages that I've ever read in a comic book in the last 10 years. Probably the best. I would say this is probably the best thing to come out of any of the big two in the last decade. I was surprised to say that. I was surprised that happened. The art it's pretty good. It's nothing to be like. It's not like, oh, that's amazing. It's pretty good, but it tells the story well. But it takes the story in a place where I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect it, and it was just really well done. Really well done, really well put together. Simple colors, just kind of the splash of things to set a mood, but very, very good. So, read 2 books this week, and not all of them were amazing, but one of them, one thing did stand out above the rest. So Jarrell loves Daniel Warren. I'm telling you, this guy you got to look out for.
Look it up.
I'm telling you, this guy you look out for.
What is your recommendation? That people read all of Superman Red and Blue to get to there? Like, will I need the context?
I skipped it. I read
Okay.
the first story; it was pretty good, but I went straight to that story and read it. The other stuff in there is really good too. So it's it's pretty decent stuff in there. You know, the writing's good, the art's good. You know, all of those things. It's that you expect it from it's a Superman story. You know, I'm not really a huge Superman fan, but that right there was some of the best writing that I have seen in such a long time. I mean, it's just so good. But yeah, this Daniel Warren Johnson, you got to keep an eye out for that guy. I think that guy he's if the people aren't recognizing him right now, they will. Every time I see his name on something, I'm going to it now. Mm-hmm. Just like I will continue to go to Andy's art. But Andy, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'll go for the story too much. The art's great. I mean, look at this. I mean, so dynamic. I go big again. Like just really cool. Like I love. Let me get over here. That
Did
one.
he write it, or is there a different writer?
It says that he's the writer.
Oh,
Andy Smith, plot and art. Oh, okay. Here's Andy Smith, plot and art. Keith Champagne, plot and script. Keith.
So it's his fault.
We might have found our culprit.
Keith. A decent effort though, all the way around though. Decent effort. I mean, it wasn't like total garbage, but it was. Okay. But I mean, the art definitely.
Squirrel Girl bad?
No. It's still better than that stuff. I mean, who are we kidding? I mean, it's still better than that stuff. But I had higher hopes for it. I think I like this Ultra story better than I like the Jungle Lords. Jungle Lords just seemed very derivative, and it's mostly this hot chick jumping around. Which Justin, you would love this.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's mostly just this hot chick jumping around in a bikini.
So like a Tarzan ripoff?
Yeah, it's very much like a Tarzan ripoff. Yeah, I kept getting that vibe.
Tarzan ripoff. Enjoy the view.
But the art is.
You're not supposed to say that.
The art is totally gorgeous in it, though. I mean, just great work, great colors. I mean, everything's. It was all.
A great artist.
Yeah. Just really good stuff. Like I like the facial expressions and stuff like that. There's a little behind the scenes stuff where you see some of the layout with the panels and pages and stuff like that. And then, I definitely this pinup's really nice, which I think it's Andy's work. Maybe it's not Andy's work, but the pinup's pretty nice in there. It's kind of got a Tarzan, Red Sonja vibe to it, a little Conan.
Yeah.
It's kind of all that kind of stuff in there, but yeah.
See, I call Monkey
so it's
because
called Marvelous
that's
Comic Group? Is the name of the publisher?
I'm not sure who the publisher is here. It's AndySmithArt.com, which Andy Smith he's a very good artist.
Oh, okay. But
Very
you
good
read
artist.
something Marvelous something?
Yeah, that's what it says up there. Marvelous
Comics Group.
Comics Group, yeah. So I don't know.
That's the same. That's like a Marvel typeface as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like an homage a bit to some of like the '90s style. Yeah. The story was better than the Jungle one, but it still was like kind of. It's a little tongue in cheek, which I can enjoy. It's basically the superhero, and he's been getting with a couple of super chicks, and it's not going so well for him. It's not going star-crossed. It's like he finds himself in the middle of a very dangerous menage a trois.
Oh.
What was this? Joe D. McPhee. But isn't that a trap? People putting too much into the art and not enough in story and character development. Yeah, I mean that is a trap.
Oh yeah, it is.
But
here's the thing.
Also, good art's harder to find now. It seems like, at least
it is.
When you look at
but I want to say
movies.
this about writers, and I was talking with Travis Gibb, who is the writer of Voodoo Nations. I'm the artist. I have this theory that anybody can call themselves a good comic book writer. And as long as they have the ego to back it up and they come in with the swagger, people are going to believe them, because most people don't really just pick up the book and then read it. Like I read it, I was like, ugh. The art's really good. It got me. I'm a fan of his work. But
Oh boy, comic writers are sounding like Conor
boy, was that
McGregor.
rough. Boy, was it. Yeah, like it was like I was
What
like,
you
oh.
talking about there? What you talking about
I'm
there,
like-
Luke? I am
I'm like,
I
holy
am
cow.
the best.
I was trying to remember how much I paid for this book, and I was like, man, that's yeah. It's one of those that's gonna make it difficult to kind of back something in that vein again. It's like, oh man, that just wasn't as entertaining as I had hoped. But the art beautiful. But I think it's one of those things that you can, a lot of effort goes into the art and making it look really pretty. Do you guys ever watch Mythbusters?
Yes.
I caught an episode or
you
two.
do.
Yeah, remember that time when they polished a turd?
No.
Yeah, they took dung and they got it and they put it in, they polished it into a really shiny ball. Looked great. But at the end of the day, it's still a turd.
Still what
And
it is.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's true about this book. I mean, tell you, it was like I was a little disappointed, but it's not near as bad as some of the stuff that I've read out there. Okay, there's some other stuff that it's so bad that I won't even bring it up because it's so bad.
Okay.
And I know the people that are behind it, and I'm like, I don't want to I don't want them to shoot me when they see me next. But
Con.
yeah,
That's why I
parking lot.
disagree
I mean,
whenever
I have you
whenever I
on
hear
like
artists
shoot on
saying-
sight.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's what I disagree with when I hear artists going, "Oh, the art is first, story second."
no.
And I'm like,
It's a
the
marriage.
art only looks good if you can read the book.
It's a marriage.
If you can't read
Yeah.
the book, your art isn't as good, is it?
Yeah.
Because you have no story to draw.
I saw a book
Yeah.
that at the shop this last week. It is published by friends of mine. It is written by a friend of mine. And the art, it looked like they probably drew these pages in 15 minutes. I can't describe it any other way. It just, and I don't care how good the story is. Like I couldn't get into it because it just looked so childish. Like not childish like a kid's book, like childish like a little kid drew it. And I'm like, I couldn't get it. And so I think there's a marriage between the art and the
There
the art
is
and the
a
story.
marriage. Because this is how I look at it, right? Great art, but bad story. Cool. You got a picture book. You don't have a
Yeah.
comic book. You have a picture book.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
a writer who is very long-winded, well, I would say like an art book. Well, an artist that's not good, but a writer that is. You have like a kind of a novel, or possibly even a like a Dr. Seuss type thing. But Dr. Seuss had a cool art style. But you also, again, you don't really have a comic book. You just kind of have like, I'm just not really trying to pay attention to the art. I want a novel. Now, when you have the peanut butter meeting the chocolates, you have a comic book.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And then,
I,
everyone loves Reese's. So.
Yeah. I definitely think it's definitely a marriage. I'm not the best artist, so I try not to be so critical. And art is subjective at to be honest. But I try real hard with writing, so I run it through two different editors, my main editor, Piper, and then, secondary editors and test readers and stuff to make sure that I've got it right. And because I understand that, where I lack in art, I got to make up for in story. And yes, bad lettering can kill both.
Yes.
Yes.
If
Nicholas
you don't know where to stick
right.
those
Yep.
bubbles in those panels, man, that can
A letterer is like a offensive lineman. The great ones the good ones you don't really notice. The great ones stand out, and then the awful ones stand out for the wrong reasons.
yeah, exactly.
I think that's a good rule, the marrying, but sometimes there's the instance that breaks the rule. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a little manga that goes by the name One Punch Man.
Yes.
The original One Punch Man was a webcomic that the author of the book Goes by the moniker One, and no one to this day knows what his real name is or what his face looks like. But he has like one of the most popular mangas and animes ever.
Yeah.
But originally, it was a web comic that he wrote and drew, but he couldn't draw, right? And so the art, it was incredibly crude, but the story was so freaking good that he amassed this huge online community of people who loved his stuff and were coming back week after week to find out what the new chapter was. And then what happened was the now artist for the official manga, he was already a famous manga artist, and he became a fan of this webcomic, and so he hit him up like, hey, I want to draw your book. And so
that's awesome.
They started back at chapter 1, and so now the One Punch Man that we know is the revised remix version where the artist came back and did all of the art, and the rest is history. But it was just and he has 2 books, right? And his second book, also self-published for free by himself, and then turned into like an anime, was called Mob Psycho 100. And so if you ever see that on Netflix, that's also the same guy.
So do you know who else kind of like falls into that vein for me? It's the guy that does Shotgun Samurai, right? Like, I love that story. I love the concept. The art's not super sophisticated yet, but you can see the improvement, and so I'm happy to journey along with that, because he still does a really good job of telling the story, pacing the book out, and all that kind of stuff. So there's that, still those root skills are there. He's just trying to refine and be more sophisticated with his art. But yeah, great storytelling. And the Comic Sans font, no. Comic Sans font is not good enough. It is,
but it's got comics in the name.
Yeah, no, that's not. You put that in there immediately. I'm like, okay. I know so many writers that also want to be letterers, and I worked with one for a while whose lettering is just absolute chaos and mayhem. Wants to change out fonts and use weird fonts instead of sticking with normal stuff. Doesn't do normal bubbles. It's like. It's just you look at it and you're like, this is just hard to read. The lettering makes such a difference. But
oh yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know if I've ever come across a good looking comic with bad lettering, but maybe I just was like, oh, this is a bad comic, and I never read it again. But I can't remember being like, this art's really good, and the writing's really good, but the lettering's it's really bringing the production down.
Well, I will say on Nick's point right here, a lot of classic manga has a simple, crude art style but great story. A lot of that's just due with the turnaround time, weekly releases of 18 pages. There's a reason why a lot of backgrounds are dash quick lines or just black. Here's a
but it does it,
establishing shot, and now we just kind of fade out the background.
Yeah, but really, that's all that's needed is those establishing shots. And once that's established, then you're good. But but that could teach, I think, some of these indie guys. Some of us we just work so hard on all of the detail, and it just gets lost. It's and it takes 10 minutes to read a comic book if you're slow. Maybe 15 minutes. My wife can blast the one in 5 or 6 minutes. But it's I like to go back and look at it and enjoy the art in those things, but not a lot of people do that. They do it for the story, and then they're moving on to the next one. I've got a pile of books back there that I haven't read yet, so I'm I'm trying to get through those things a little more quickly. And
I think if you're artful with the technique of making the
Todd
establishing
McFarlane
shot,
says,
I was gonna say, if you're artful with the technique
Todd
of making
McFarlane
the
says,
it's all you, Dutton.
My bad. My internet's a little slow. Well, all right. So the detail thing, right? Todd McFarlane has a rule of out of a 22-page comic, standard issue comic, you only need one really amazing page, and that's what he writes to. He writes to be that one, oh snap! Page.
Did you see that?
And then the rest is just, you don't have to go as
Yay! about
you
what
can
you've
relax
accomplished.
on all the other things as long as you have that killer page.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you decide is killer and what's not killer. As long as the not killer stuff is still like a high quality of like art, then it's cool. But like if 90% of the book is like duds, like crude duds, and then you have like one shining like splash page of like amazing art, I'm gonna be like, this guy only tries for like 1 or 2 pages per book. Like what the hell?
I
But
wish
if
I
you're
could get
just
by
like
with that, but that's awesome.
right, yeah. But if your like regular page is just up here, right, and then that page is up here, then no one's gonna care. But like the rest of the pages are down here.
Yeah.
I'm not showing up. I'm not reading 22 pages to get 1 page of this, and then like another 19 pages of this.
Dory says simplifying my lettering is the last thing to.
Whoop.
Whoops.
There we go.
Simplifying my lettering is the last
Hold
thing to
up.
do for my volume 1 of my haiku series. I didn't like my own complex first pass at it. And that's kudos for you for taking a look at it and saying, okay, we needed to take it and make some adjustments to that, because a lot of people don't. They don't.
I don't know if you guys talked about. I don't remember when this came out, but did you guys see this horrible IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Best of April O'Neil cover?
I did not. No.
No.
Oh, it's
Pull
We
it
have
up,
a
let's
link
see
to
it.
it. Put it in
Yeah,
there.
I'll share it.
Yeah,
Yes.
share that. Let us see it.
It's horrible. It
Oh
looks like a
god.
fifth grader drew it with crayons.
Well, while you're doing that, let's get through some more of these comments.
Yeah.
All right. Nicholas says, yeah, but when you see folks like Matt, I'm not even going to try it, whose art and story were mind-blowing. Yeah, there are some people where both of them are just, it's kind of next level
Masamune
stuff.
Shiro.
Masamune
Um,
Shiro.
wait, I'm trying to. Wasn't he the Berserk guy?
I can't say it.
If so, Berserk had a different time frame. They didn't do a weekly schedule. He was like, "Yo, I'm gonna do a whole volume, and then I will release it whenever I feel like it." But he went
Alright, let's take a
highly
look at this.
detailed.
Well, that is.
No,
Let's take a look at
no.
this April
you're-
O'Neil cover.
What you said about the Berserk guy is correct, but Masamune Shiro did Appleseed for those
gotcha.
who love the mangas and the animes. Yeah.
Wow.
What the what?
This is what passes now?
Yeah, that's the
This
cover.
is an IDW cover of a comic book?
Yep. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Best of April O'Neil #1. That's the cover.
Please tell me that's a variant of some kind.
Nope, that's the main cover.
Oh gosh.
What a horrible.
Well, the truth is about comics, you do judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. All right, let's get through some of these comments.
You know what? Ickfist
I-
is in the
I-
house.
I need to
Big
start
Foos, what's
submitting to IDW to do covers because
Right.
apparently anyone can.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yep.
Yes, they can hurt a story and or arc. I'm gonna remove you. Look at that. Look. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Did you see that? That was nuts.
Podception.
Yes. All right. More comments.
So if you're a fifth grader, you guys can do comic books now. Comic book covers
Right.
now.
Professional
Go for it,
for
yeah.
IDW.
Yeah.
No, 8th grade. Come on now.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Do that
Alright,
extra
Those
3
so
years
crayons.
you know
for
what?
color theory.
It has been a good minute, and we still have not talked about today's subject, which is
We
Frank
need
Miller.
let's get into
Oh,
it.
that's right. Yeah.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller.
The
Frank
man.
Miller
If
getting
you don't
canceled,
know-
man.
if you don't know, Frank Miller recently, he was invited to a Comic-Con in the UK, which he's from the UK. Then they, one small company was like, hey, we feel like he is kind of bigoted and is harmful, and this is supposed to be a open and inclusive environment, so we're not coming. So then they were like, hey, Frank, we uninvite you. And then the person who made the big hubbub was like, well, I'm not going still anyways. And if you don't know who Frank Miller is, if you've seen the movie Sin City,
Sin City. Yep.
he did that comic, which the movie is based off
300.
of. And if
yep.
you've done seen like 300, he did the comic based off that as well. So Frank Miller.
Batman, Frank Miller's Batman is like
Can't.
iconic.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Dark Knight Returns. If you've read that comic,
Yeah.
if you've seen the DC animated film, The
Yep.
Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2,
It has the
that's Frank Miller.
So, but what it comes down to is
That
right
pose.
after 9/11, Frank Miller published a story that, to be fair, some larger publishers kind of wanted to stay
Was
away
bad.
from because they could see the potential backlash for it. But what it did is it highlighted an extremist group, a Muslim extremist group, which was kind of the same, which was in light of 9/11 was very topical, and so he did this book, and to my knowledge, I've never heard him or seen anything where he has said anything that's anti-Semitic or like anti-Muslim outside of that book. I've not seen anything that from him that would say, okay, yeah, this is an old bigot.
Right.
So
Frank Miller is no bigot. I don't think he doesn't have bigoted intentions. I think he was mad at that specific group for that specific action.
and like every
And he
other
was
artist out there,
And like every other American at the time.
yes, but like every other artist, whether you're a musician, you're an art or a writer,
Country
you
music went hella hard
express
on
your
that.
anger. You express your anger through your medium, and that's what he did. That's what I saw it as. I think a lot of people that's what they saw it as. But Frank Miller is hands down, one of the best talents that we've seen in modern comics at all.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and so
No, undoubtedly.
yeah, and so somebody was upset that he was there, and so they write this huge diatribe on Twitter, and then cause this big stink, and then he gets uninvited from this thing, and then fans of Frank Miller start going after this person. They start posting, because when you post things on Twitter, I mean, it's a cesspool of negativity. You might get some positive feedback there, but chances are, the anonymity of social media causes
It's
people to be a
mudslinging
whole lot
contest.
more
If
aggressive.
you mudsling one way, you're gonna get mudsling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And so
I mean, that's what like Twitter is. It's a mudslinging fest.
yeah, and so there were people that went and made comments, and and they did, they said their stuff to this person. Some of those I did read. Some of them. Some of them were out of line. Some of them were just par for the course for Twitter. And it was like, well, what do you expect? And some of them were, just normal grievances. Like, yeah, that was legitimate. But what you would expect from social media. I will say this as a side note. It's funny that sometimes people need to be reminded that real life is not Twitter. So I had this guy that started jawing. He was like jawing at me at the gas station, like in his car. He almost hit me. Like he did this flip around thing, almost hit me. Then he starts waving his hands around and saying something. So I'm kind of a big guy, I'm 6'4". I weigh 280 pounds. Just get out of the car. And I'm like, excuse me. What were you saying? And he's all like, oh, nothing, man. Everything's fine. I'm just waiting for my friend, man. It's just all right. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people need to be reminded that real life isn't Twitter. And so people will say things that are way more aggressive than what they should while they're there.
Yeah.
I do the same thing because I'm big too. I'm 6'4" as well, at about 270. And people do that kind of crap too. And I drive a RAV4. So when I step out of my car, I get out like this and then step out, and I'm taller than my car. So they're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I drive a Ford Flex, which, I mean, I look kind of normal size in the Flex, but when I stand up, I'm taller than the car.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Huh?
So
But yeah,
I'm like 5'5", so
Yeah,
all
so-
of you are giants.
Yeah, but so this person, who went on a cancel culture kind of bender for Frank Miller, then had a bunch of people come after them, and so then they play victim with it, and now they're not going to the thing, and now everybody loses, and I think it's ridiculous. I mean, at some point, there are people out there that do and say things that I disagree with and write things that I disagree with. especially they're especially very left leaning stuff, and I'm not left leaning at all. I'm right leaning, probably a little bit towards the middle as a conservative leaning libertarian. But if someone writes something or says something or believes something that's contrary to what I do, I just friggin' ignore it. I just ignore it. I mean, there are well-known writers, and I'm, because I don't want to upset people, but with naming like, oh, I think this guy sucks and I think that guy's terrible. I don't want to get into that, but there are well-known, famous comic book writers and artists that I just don't care for. I don't, there are things they've said or done that I didn't like, and sometimes it's their art that I don't like. And sometimes there's people that say and do things I don't like, but I love their storytelling and I love their art. And so I still buy it, because I'm like, well, they're lousy. Like I caught myself watching Ellen DeGeneres the other day, and I was laughing at Ellen DeGeneres. And I know Ellen, like all that stuff come out that Ellen's a terrible person. She's mean and she's a bully and all that kind of stuff. She's kind of funny.
Yeah. Someone brought up the fact that sometimes when, say, someone puts in a book, like especially at the big two, the writer or something puts in all of these super progressive themes into a book, and then you don't like it, right? So you kind of just don't want to buy the book. You don't want to support. Maybe you don't even want to support the company, right? But then you're like, you start and you're thinking, you're like, well, the writer said that thing that I don't like, but the letterer didn't, and the artist didn't, and the editor didn't, and they're still good at their jobs, and they still have to eat. So you can feel sorry and be like, like I kind of want to. It's like it's just kind of a shame that one person on a team will say something like, if you don't like my politics, then don't buy my book. Now you're losing money for everyone else on your team. Yeah. Well, the writer
definitely has the largest voice.
I'm actually glad that you said the Kelly Sue DeConnick quote. That's, I think, the one major issue now is with a lot more writers inserting their own beliefs into stories and not just creating stories, especially with Kelly Sue DeConnick openly saying, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. No matter what you write, because the other thing with the Frank Miller thing, it was mainly that book, but they also used like Sin City of going, look, he's misogynist and sexist. Look how bad he's treated these women from other stories. Because everyone's like, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my books. They're mistaking like what you put into a story with your own personal beliefs. They think it's like this, and it's more like sometimes this. Sometimes a little things are legally connected, but
most of the time my own personal beliefs don't make it into a book. They do, like some of my own personal beliefs do make it into my hybrids book, but it's throttled. Some of those things are throttled. To an extent, because I want to be true to the story and tell the story. That's why I have to go back. Like I don't typically buy a lot of big two stuff because there's a lot of that kind of agenda laden stuff in there. But I have to go back to this Daniel Warren Johnson, man. This story is fantastic. If he does a series for DC or Marvel, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Animal Man. I'm buying it. Because he's so talented at what he does, and he told the story well. Now he hit a couple of points in there that really hit me on a personal level, and so that was great. But you're absolutely right. Not everybody that works on a project feels the way that the writer does, but unfortunately the writer has the loudest voice. Now there was that I think it was X-Men. It was an issue of X-Men where the artist was putting anti-Semitic messages in the art.
Oh yeah.
That also messed things up.
Yeah.
So I think that the artist and the writer and everybody and the letterer and the colorist, everybody have to be respectful of one another. And I think if an artist gets a script and he reads it, and if it goes against fundamentally what he's about, I understand the desire to work on one of those books, the desire to make money off of one of those books. But I think maybe, being selective about the stuff you work on is probably important too. But that's just my thought on that. Because, I mean, who's to say, right now, in this particular time in history, that's the side that gets to choose who gets canceled. Right? But what happens in, 10 years when the pendulum swings the other direction, which it always does, and it becomes hyper conservative because of all this crazy kind of like extreme liberal viewpoints that are just kind of turning people off, right? And then what happens? It's like, oh, well, then are we going to be okay when the extreme right conservative side starts canceling the extreme liberal side? Like, it's like, and we're like, well, it's extremes, yeah, but we've started labeling a lot of things as extreme that isn't extreme anymore. It's
just oppose.
Yeah,
use oppose and extreme like they're synonyms, and they're not.
Yeah.
You know what? I haven't seen extreme tossed around this much since like 90s sports games. Extreme.
Yeah, like Doritos and like wearing my hat backwards and
ping pong.
You're right. Extreme X-Men.
Yeah. It is ridiculous. Where people that just want to be left alone come across as extreme or whatever, that like, oh, and it's I never would have, if anyone would have said, oh, well, Frank Miller's a bigot, I would have never, it's so easy for me to dismiss that.
Yeah, because we're so familiar with what he's done.
Yeah.
We've been reading his comics and watching his movies and listening to his interviews for so long. And so when someone says Frank Miller bigot, I'm like, where?
And and I think people are afraid of the woke crowd so much that like the knee-jerk reaction is like, well, we got to cancel Frank. He can't come to the show. He can't be a part of this because we don't need the bad press of the woke, because the woke gets so loud and so angry and they get so aggressive with all of this stuff that it's just like, how do we stop it? And it just gets out of control, and nobody wants to get canceled. I even talking about this tonight before the show started, for those that are watching, I said, it's like, we've got, I've got some big moves that I'm trying to do with my book here in the next few weeks and stuff. So, I really can't afford to get myself canceled right before that happens, so everyone's thinking in that terms of who's being canceled. And now there's somebody else being canceled. Sam, who's getting canceled right now?
Nick Spencer is getting canceled. Nick Spencer, who is currently writing Spider-Man, and his run is almost up. After his run is over, he has announced that he has a deal with what was the online? Dutton remembered the name of it earlier. It was something Substack. There we go. Substack, this really cool online platform that lets it's classically been journalists. A lot of the journalists who have big names and are actual real journalists who have kind of like how a lot of creators have been getting kicked out of comics. A lot of the real journalists have been getting kicked out of doing journalism at the big journalistic places. And so they've been leaving and going to Substack, and hey, for this small fee, you can get some actual journalism and actually and so now Substack is branching off into comics, and they're doing this announcement by announcing that, hey, we got Nick Spencer, and he's going to help run this comic side of things, and I think he also may be doing a book, but really it's Nick Spencer, for the most part, being an executive and helping to run the comic book side of Substack. And now he's positioned himself to make a lot of money, doing a lot of cool stuff, helping people make money, make their own comics. And here's the thing is, so the bad people, the people we don't like, the angry people, they really don't like it when people leave their cone of influence of doom and gloom and go off to do their own thing. They don't like giving up that power. And so they're mad at Nick Spencer for branching off and going somewhere else outside of their reach. And so now they're using the fact that he once ran for office as a Republican and then it's like in a very left-leaning place. So like a Republican out there isn't the same as a Republican in most places. But
No, it's more libertarian out there. Yeah, if
right.
you're a Republican, you're more yeah. You're just not that left.
Yeah, you're just not that left, right? And so
because he ran as a Republican, now they're trying to cancel him?
They're trying to cancel him. They had all this time while he was writing Spider-Man, while he was doing... They had all this time to say how they felt, but no, they wait until after he announces that he's leaving to make money moves outside of their control to be like, he's a bigot, he's a Nazi, all the worst things that they say about the Trump supporters, and Nick Spencer's not a Trump supporter, but all the worst things they say about them, they're now giving to Nick Spencer because he's leaving to do his own independent thing and make a major move for himself. And
he's probably going to do very, very well. He's probably going to do very, very well. Well, I guess that brings me, that kind of makes me wonder, does how a person votes, does it really matter that much to the average fan? To the average reader?
I don't know. I still don't know how most of my favorite comic book artists and writers vote.
The thing that doesn't matter to me is when they mouth off the stuff that comes out of their mouths. I don't care how they vote.
Yeah.
But when they start saying stuff that's like, what? What are you even talking about, you moron? That's when I go, okay, done. You get no more of my money because this is a capitalist society where you vote with your money here. So if you don't like somebody or something that they've said, don't give them your money.
I don't care how Daniel Warren Johnson votes. I don't even care. Like, I don't care. Like, he could be the most liberal person in the world or the most conservative person in the world, and it doesn't bother me either way. Same way with Andy Smith. Don't care how he votes. Love his art. I don't care. I don't care if he's anti-CG, if he's CG. I don't care any of that stuff. I don't even know. I don't even care. I
don't know how Grant Morrison votes. I know some of his beliefs are very different from mine, but I know he writes his ass off and he makes really interesting stuff. And maybe he said somewhere on Twitter, on the internet, how he votes and whatnot, but I haven't heard it. I just know he's a great writer.
All I know is Grant Morrison said that he's a wizard, so that's all I know.
Right, yeah, right. That's also what I know, right?
He says some weird stuff, and I'm like, I kind of expect weird stuff to come out of his mouth, but let the weird flow because the result is magnificent.
When it flows onto the comic, it's beautiful.
Right? Yeah, the result is it's entertaining, and at the end of the day, this is about entertainment,
And by the way, it's not just the not knowing. If tomorrow I found out he voted for Biden and he voted the entire Democratic ticket, I still wouldn't care as long as he's not coming at me or anyone else for voting different than him. Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Well, here's how I identify myself. I identify myself as a Christian, and because I read the Word of God and I try to follow after God, I vote with that as my basis. And so I can find myself most of the time politically, I find myself agreeing with Republicans because of that. But there have been instances where I agree with libertarians because of my Christian background, or there's also the very few times I agree with Democrats on a certain issue because of my Christian background. So it's Christ first, but if you were to, use the lens of the Bible and then look at everything, more often than not, I'm going to be conservative and Republican leaning.
We are totally on the same page, but that doesn't matter. If your book sucks, I still won't buy it.
Right. Good to know.
Yeah,
maybe that's how we should start putting it, because people get so upset. It's like, well, if it was good, I would buy it. It's like, I'm like, hey, if your book sucks, I'm not going to buy it. I don't care how much I like you. And honestly, there's some buddies out there that I like them, but I don't like their work. But I really like them. I want to encourage them to keep doing it because, here's the thing. Art is subjective, right? It's totally subjective. And the stuff that I like is not necessarily going to be the same stuff that Dutton likes. Dutton and I, we created our friendship because we were on a stream like this, and we both started quoting lines from the exact same movie. Yeah. And it was like, hey, he knows this movie, I know the movie, right? That's what our whole friendship became kind of predicated upon, you know, and it's okay, you know, if we disagree on other things. I don't have to agree with everything that he does. I don't have to agree with everything that Todd says and what he thinks, you know. I know Todd has some pretty strong feelings and some very, very, like, he can get very passionate about some feelings that maybe I'm not as passionate about, you know. I'm like, well, I don't.
Super fair, yeah.
I don't really care, but he cares, so I'm like, I'll root him on, and if I don't agree with it, I'll just be like, this is America. Feel free to say whatever you want to, because this is America, and we can do that.
We actually have one more cancellation, but it has nothing to do with comics, though.
Oh, what is it?
All right, so I don't know how familiar you are with Digimon. Me, it's one of my favorite cartoons of all time.
My kids love Digimon.
So they had this weekend in Japan a 20-year anniversary convention for Digimon. Tamers, which was like the third series. Fantastic series. It was like they started on Earth first. Well, the writer of that, because he only wrote Tamers, who did that one, he wrote a script, and they did a live reading of this script, and people are like, he's far right, I was not expecting that out of Digimon. The script was
what?
There's a because you know, again,
Digimon?
you think, yep, right? It's crazy.
We're canceling
like
Digimon?
a dark cloud, which is cancellation, cancel culture, is going like through the internet, because you know it's Digimon, everything's internet, and it's stifling the voices that go against it and suppressing it. So basically, he was writing like some cancel culture stuff, and people were like, we weren't expecting this out of Digimon.
Yeah, cancel culture is it's
it only exists on Twitter.
It's very weird.
Anything else? I don't see it on any other social media platforms. It's just Twitter.
But you know what though?
So why not just go Twitter? You suck. You people go away and don't ignore them.
Here's the problem. They've got to stop with the whole cancel culture.
It's not
thing.
real life.
They're killing comedy. Things aren't funny anymore because you can't say anything because that might offend somebody. It's a joke, people. It's a joke. Comic books are getting canceled. Video games, Digimon, everything's getting canceled. And I'm telling you, you just can't do that, because what happens is you're going to start creating this. Well,
you see, your actions have consequences. When you oppress people, they rise up in a fiery anger.
I love that one.
It's only going to make things worse. Let's just back off and have a good time and enjoy ourselves a little bit, right?
Like, and leave Digimon of all things alone.
Yeah, really.
Digimon.
Yeah.
Well, you know things have gotten bad. I don't know if you saw my tweet.
The funny thing is, a lot of people are like, yo, people like Japanese people are like starting to push back on, yo, not everything revolves around America, and y'all should stop doing to American countries. Because really, it was like a freedom of speech thing, is what like the whole script was. And I kind of paraphrased the whole cancel.
Oh yeah,
that's
the
cancel
right
culture and political correction. But it was a freedom of speech of like online, and it was like, ooh.
When did freedom of speech become far right? But that's right. Think about how arrogant are we that we think everything that everybody creates is about us. It's not, man. It's not. Just chill out.
It's one of the things you gotta love about Japan, because they actually took these woke people and threw them out of their country, and they go, "Don't come back. We don't like this. Don't come back."
So you need to back off.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, before I interrupted Justin Dutton there, did you guys see that tweet I put out where I said it showed the French protesting against this COVID passport stuff, and I said, you know, things have gotten bad when the French are protesting.
Yeah, right.
The French are like, who cares? I don't care. Do you care?
Yeah, that's their attitude about everything. They're like, we don't care about anything. Now they're protesting in the streets, like thousands and thousands of them. And I'm like, you know it's gotten bad now. when they're rising up now.
Well, guys, I'm down to my last sip. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around. We're going to go around and we're going to tell everybody where they can find us and give any last parting words. And we're going to start.
Hey, you can find me at Mighty Jump Comics Twitter, but it's on Twitter. It's spelled with an X, not a CS, because I ran out of letters. And you can also find me on Mighty Jump Comics on Instagram, spelled exactly as you see it right there. And you can find stuff that I'm helping to create at Capsule Art and Capsule USA on Instagram with my buddy Jason. We are Capsule. And and I'm not going to step on Dutton's line this week, so that's the end of mine.
You can find me at Todd's Truth, my YouTube channel, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
Awesome.
Hi, you know me because you're here listening to me talk to you, and therefore you know me. You should vote for me next election on something, whatever it is. Vote for me. Write it in.
So write in.
Also, you can find me sometimes at Area 57, where I am teaching trained monkeys, actually it's baboons, how to use air balloons to shoot bazookas. It's going to be fantastic. Stealth missions only, with bazookas, baboons, air balloons. Super excited. I'm getting canceled out of Area 57. I just got informed for revealing top secret information. That project is canceled. But baboons already know how to use bazookas, so watch out.
And
you can
Dutton's been
find
having
me
some
on
recreational
Facebook.
pharmaceuticals tonight, I think.
You can find me on Facebook. Just look up my name. You can find me on Twitter at JustinDutton18. You can find me here on Tuesdays at 8 to 9, since I am no longer training bazooka launching baboon air ballooning riding baboons. Yep. Cool.
All right.
To you, Luke. How's the weather?
It's great. It's the weather it's wet and raining. It's wet and raining. But I'm Luke. You can find me at LukeStoneStudios.com. If you can head over to LukeStoneStudios.com, there's going to be links to the Indiegogos. I've got the Killing Field Part 3. We're signing up for that now, and we still have Part 2 in demand for those who might have missed out on that. The last few of the packages are going out this week. I'm just waiting. I'm just finishing up some sketch covers so we can get those out. I'm going to be here every Tuesday unless I get canceled. Okay, so we're going to try not to get canceled anytime soon, so that we can keep bringing this kind of entertainment to you for about an hour or so. So it's been take a break. We've taken a break.
And very much like a Kit Kat, we took that break.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to encourage you to go out and find some indie comics and buy as many as you can. Head to your local comic book store. There is just a couple. One more thing. If you need Gemini mailers, go to Gemini. Order those with Volt 10 as your code, and you can save 10% off that order, which is good stuff. Great stuff for you. We do encourage you to go.
That's what I didn't do last week.
That's what you didn't do last week. Also encourage you that if you have a local shop and you want to get great books like Hybrids of Sons of Gods, Only Death Can Save Us, God's Hand, Oswald Chronicles, and Hero About Zero, and I'm missing a few of these. I know I'm missing a few of these, but if you want to get great books like that, go to ledg.us and sign up for the declaration. And if you have a local shop and you want to get those books in your local shop, encourage them to go over there. There is a money back guarantee or a buyback guarantee. It is fast shipping at a discount, and I'm telling you, you want to check that out. There's a lot of great books signed up with that, and so we do encourage you to do that. And
I'm gonna go out and buy some more.
Okay.
And I think you should too.
Yes, I do. I think you should do. I think you should too. So that has been our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We do look forward to seeing you again next week. And yes, Liberty Entertainment Distribution. You definitely want to check that out. So have a great day, and remember to leave the woodpile a little bit higher than you found it.